A very good morning to you, dear listener, and welcome to the Monday edition of Perspectives, a current affairs discussion program on iGate Radio, 95.5 Star FM, Makudi, Benue State. Today on Perspectives, our focus is on Nigeria Union of Journalists, NUJ at 70, the challenges and prospects and contributions of journalism to nation building. The Nigeria Union of Journalists, established on March 15, 1955, clocked 70 years just within a week, barely 2 days ago. And on this edition of the program, we shall look at the contributions of this critical union to strengthening democracy in Nigeria and, of course, promoting ethical journalism, accomplishing the standards, practice, and issues of welfare bordering on journalists. To what extent is our country treating journalists' rights? Is press freedom being respected? Are journalists accepted in the society as people who have contributions to offer for the well-being of the society? These are the issues we shall try to find answers to on this edition of the program. I have been joined here in the studio by three analysts who will offer insights on this subject matter. First is a seasoned journalist who has practiced this profession for decades, and he is also a teacher of journalism. He is a publisher. Mr. Babs Osigbe has joined us on this edition of the program. Welcome to Perspectives, Mr. Osigbe.
Thank you and good morning.
We also have joining us a legal practitioner who is a public affairs commentator and also a publisher. He has a lot of interest in journalism, Barrister Joseph Gbagyo. Thank you for joining us on the program, Mr. Gbagyo.
Thank you very much. Good morning, the good people of Benue.
And we are joined by Daniel Pillar, who is a seasoned public affairs commentator as well, and a politician, imagine one. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Pillar.
Thank you, but just to correct that, I'm not an emerging politician. I'm one established already.
Okay, a politician. Thank you. I am Nathaniel Nongu, welcoming you to this Monday edition of the program, and you may be tuning into Perspectives for the first time. For such person, we kindly inform you that Perspectives is audience participatory. Usually at 10 o'clock, we allow you, the listener, to contribute on what we are discussing. The number through which you can reach us is 0814-335-9292. The number once again is 0814-335-9292. Meanwhile, the SMS line through which you can also contribute on the program is 0912-699-9404. The number once again is 0912-699-9404. It's also available on WhatsApp. You can also listen to us by logging onto our website on www.agateradio.tv.com. And of course, access other content as well. We're available on Radio Garden and on social media platforms where our content is streaming. You may also download the iGate Radio and TV app from Google Play Store. This is a one-stop app that avails you the platforms of our television online, the radio, as well as newspaper. Please join us to be a part of this edition and, of course, the iGate Radio family. Stay with us as we take a short break, and once we are back, the discussion begins. Welcome back from that short break. And let me begin with you, Mr. Osigbe. Of course, I should say maybe happy NUJ 70 to you because you have been a seasoned journalist for a long time. So you identify with this moment. Let's begin by looking at what were the circumstances surrounding the formation of the NUJ as far back as 1955.
Thank you very much. I'll say congratulations to my colleagues. I'm happy that the NUJ is older than Nigeria because we got independent in 1960, which means we were already giving birth to before Nigeria got independence. You recall that the pre-independence era witnessed a set of journalists that had a focus. They had a reason for wanting to have a better Nigeria, where it confronts the colonial masters, which were not easy for them. And they needed to actually come together to be able to do that. So they worked in unison to actualize the goal of making sure that the colonial masters left the shores of Nigeria. That was at that period witnessed what I would call combative press, where they fought to get them out of the country. And while doing that, there were a lot of oppressions. There was no freedom for them to actually practice. And they were running helter-skelter. Some of them embarked on what we call guerrilla journalism, where you publish and you disappear. And the colonial masters were actually after them. And while this was going on, they were not, because they were not given the privilege to express themselves, they had a way of meeting to be able to make sure that their activities are well known to the people. First of all, they had the backings of the people they were fighting for, and they were able to do it with every sense of responsibility, not minding the interests of the colonial masters. One thing that played out during that period was that they had one goal of ensuring that Nigeria is giving birth to. They wanted to see how oppressive attitudes and policies of the colonial masters would disappear. And so they needed to come together. And at that time, you remember that most of the people that were actually fighting the colonial masters were themselves journalists, publishers, trained. So they knew their onions. But incidentally, because the atmosphere was not conducive for them to do what they wanted to do, they were not able to actually actualize the aim of wanting to fight the colonial masters. They had some of the most oppressive laws that prevented them from doing it. So when NUJ actually came on board, and they needed a forum to have a unified policy on agreements on how they perform their duties. At that point, we also discovered that most of the journalists, because of their level of education, they were not really able to comprehend what their roles were at that time. And they needed an organization through which they could do that. And when NUJ came on board, most of the journalists at the beginning have to members of that organization. They needed a platform to ensure that they were not intimidated, they were not harassed. They needed a platform where they could practice the journalism profession without hindrance or with little resistance from the colonial masters. And so that was how they came together, and they were able to form an organization through which they could do some of these, carry out these activities. And since then, NJ has undergone so many stages of performance and development. And today we are happy that we are 70, even though we have not reached where we want to get to because of so many things that are happening. And I believe sincerely that we are going to come out stronger.
All right. As we go along, we're looking at how the union has evolved over the years. Now, Barrister Gbagio, from your co-panelist's submission, he mentioned the role of journalists, especially since the pre-independence era. Would you like to speak to how the union has contributed to Nigeria gaining its own independence in 1960, as it were, and the contributions up to present.
Yeah, like Elder Bab Osigo has said, and of course, he has captured it vividly, giving us a checkered history of how the NUJ has evolved over time. And today, we're talking of 70 years old. 70 years old, and looking at Nigeria from the colonial history. And of course, you and I know that by 1851, Lagos was bombarded, and by 1861, annexed to the British colony to be administered by the Queen. So that began the journey of colonialism in Nigeria. And if you look at it, up till 1960, when finally Nigeria obtained her independence, a lot of things took place. And we can begin to interrogate what were those things that took place. Of course, the role of the media as a fourth estate of the realm at this point cannot be overemphasized in terms of agitating for independence, reporting some of the ills of the colonial masters, some of the inadequacies, some of the colonial or obnoxious colonial policies were all brought to light by the journalists as at then. So today we are enjoying independence, and that's because some people have paid the price for that independence that we are enjoying today. And if anybody at all has paid that price, it is the journalists who have paid that price, because it was not really an easy task confronting the colonial that were established, and this should be the right thing. So we can go on and on and on and on, but the role of the journalists cannot be overemphasized. And in 1950, coming together to form a union was just the melting point of it, to say, look, we need to come together as a group to agitate for better welfare, to agitate for better policies for our government, and as well protect the rights and privileges of our members. So it is quite good, and I think credit goes to them, because the Nigerian Union of Journalists was the forefront professional association that actually saw the need to come together. Of course, those of the accountant came in 1965. Historical Society of Nigeria came in 1965. Even the Council of Legal Education was established in 1962. So I think they deserve a lot of credit, and 70 years today is quite commendable. And we hope and pray that the heroes of the past should not go in vain.
Very well. Now, Mr. Pillar, still on the pre-colonial existence of journalism practice, like Barrister Bayo pointed out, there are Azikiwe's of the Azikiwe was the publisher of West African Pilots, yes. And these were nationalists, Herbert Macaulay. They were all journalists. Would you like to reflect on the times of journalism practice, the independence, pre-independence era up to independence time as well?
The last two speakers, Babs and Barrister Bayo, have said it all. NUJ came into existence at a time Nigeria was suffering. I don't know if I will be correct to use the word suffocate, because the colonial master didn't want to leave Nigeria. They never wanted to leave. And so the early journalists, like the two elders you have mentioned, having known the power of journalism, ventured into publication, because this was the only method through which dissemination of information could reach to the hinterlands, could go to anywhere. Nigerians will know, look, this is what and what these people are doing to us. We need to be governed by ourselves. And so the only means through which the people could be reached during this time was to publish, because the other means of dissemination information were censored. And so it was only through this medium that the people could be reached. And we give credit to them, because were it not for their efforts, I don't think Nigeria would have gotten independence by that time. Because through their own struggles, other they were getting support from other places outside the country as well, because through their publications, through their reporting, their reportage, people got to know this is what Nigeria is facing. You may be suffering in your house, but people won't know until you voice it out. And so they became a voice through which Nigeria was heard. And so AUJ and the struggle for independence was intertwined. They were married together. You cannot say there was independence without journalism. You can't say it, because it was this type of struggle that gave birth to Nigeria's independence in 1960. For every patriotic Nigerian who was fighting for independence, you were only heard through the media. You were only heard through the press. And so we give credit to these people, because if you sit down in your house and shout, nobody will hear you until what you have said is taken to the people, until what you have said is reported, until what you have said is published in the newspaper. People will get to know this is where we are. This is the position of Mr. A or B and C. And so what the Zeeks and Macaulays did was divine. Permit me to use that word, because they came into the media at a point Nigeria needed for our independence, even at the expense of their lives. Some of them were tortured, some were locked up in prisons. A lot of things happened. Behind the scenes, a lot of things. There was pressure on most of them, but they were not deterred. They were focused, they were determined, and they were able to deliver democracy to Nigeria. I think we have to give credit to them.
Very well. Now, Mr. Osigwe, let's look at how the NUJ has evolved over the years and what are the significant milestones it has achieved over these 70 years that you would like to point out.
Okay, the NUJ has, first and foremost, we have a pivotal role to play in the growth of the country and democratic and democracy. Over the years, the NUJ has fought for, like we said, for independence. Before I go, let me tell you that after we got independence, our publishers, journalists at that time lost focus, because they now brought in personal interests and forgot that what brought them in was the practice of journalism. But because of their interest in taking over power, they were really not combative as they would have at that time. And it was a minus for the growth of the practice of journalism because of the personal interest. They were hungry for power. They quickly ensured that they got independence for Nigeria, and they abandoned their first call, I would say first call. And if you look at their publications at that time, everyone now went back to his own region. For instance, the pilot was concentrating on reports that had to propagate the activities of the Lake Zik. The Tribune was with later Bafemi Awolowo. They went with him, and so many other newspapers in the in the north and so. Even though, as a result of that, smaller newspapers came up, but all of them were now fighting the interests of their owners. So they were not really looking again at strengthening the practice of journalism. And so it became a problem. And that was the reason why most of those newspapers never survived anymore, because they were now becoming regional-based newspapers. So they could not survive, apart from the one that and all over is Publishing Tribunal. So I think every other newspaper went down the drains and they were no longer publishing. And again, the journalists that were being recruited, most of them never had independence because of the proprietarial interests and because of the people they are working for. They were now dancing to the tune of their employers. It was a big challenge for the practice of journalism. And it created some kind of imbalance in terms of actually doing what they were trained to do. If you look at some of these newspapers I'm just talking about, pick a copy of their old editions. Everything about them was their proprietor. Everything about them was their proprietor. Everybody was fighting to hold on to power or to grab power. So it became a problem for journalism practice in the country. But that, I haven't said that, but we still say that all said and done, the practice of journalism never ceased. It actually underwent, or it went, it grew from year to year. It was growing because of this upsurge of more publications that were now coming in. More newspapers were being opened all over the place, and they were now being able to get pace. They paid their price. We had daily times at that time, how they did their work. But I'm going to come to that probably when the question comes, to tell you the roles of some of these people that they played in ensuring that they fought the government that was not doing the right thing. But all said and done, we have played our role as journalists. We've ensured that democracy is strengthened in Nigeria, even though we, like I said, we had a lot of challenges. You know, we faced so many intimidation from different sectors. We faced harassment and all the rest of them. I think we'll be talking about that. But for the journalists, we continue to grow, because today, if you look at the publications that exist in Nigeria, all over the country, there are so many publications that are still on today. But I think some of them are beginning to jettison the idea of working for or singing the praises of their proprietors. They are now focusing on the practice.
What do you think are the major challenges the journalists face in that line of duty?
There are quite a lot of challenges, and those challenges, we can look at it from one, the political challenges, or perhaps we can say political interference in the practice of journalism. One. Secondly thirdly, we can say infrastructural deficit is part of the problem. That you and I know that, yes, out there they say the practice of journalism is independent, so to speak. But if you look at it, it is not completely independent, because in one way or the other, the executive still comes in to interfere in the practice of this journalism. So you find situations where the executive rely on the inadequacies or the gaps in the law. Take, for instance, Section 39 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria gives every citizen the freedom of expression. Again, Section 22 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, which is under Chapter 2 of the Fundamental, Objective, and Direct Principles of State Policy, enables the establishment of radio stations and television stations for the purpose of propagating the policies of government. Okay. Then Chapter 9 of Section 9 of the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, and also other international conventions that Nigeria is signatory to, gives room or gives opportunity or gives leaves the door open for the practice of journalism in Nigeria. However, as beautifully as this sounds, the executive oftentimes rely on the inadequacies in this law to constitute a clog in the effective practice of journalism in Nigeria. Now, Section 22, which is under Fundamental Objective and Direct Principles of State Policy, is non-justiciable. If you go to Section 6, subsections 6, paragraph C, it's not justiciable. So even if this is not done, you still find a way. I mean, you can't go to court to challenge it. You know, that is one aspect of it. You know, then other legislations that establish some media organizations or that constitute regulatory mechanisms, like the NTA Act, for instance, is under the Minister of Information. So, Mr. Nathaniel, how do you think the Minister of Information, who is controlling the Nigerian Television Authority, will allow any other information or news that is against the government to be reported? And that is why sometimes we find NTA tilting more in favor of government. Then you have the Broadcasting Commission Act, you know, where it regulates, it's more or less like a censorship organization, I mean, or censorship commission. And you and I know that in 2021, I mean 2022 or so, there was this media gag order that's through the Nigerian Broadcasting Commission. The then Minister of Information, Alhaji Lai Mohammed, was trying to introduce, where some radio, some television stations were sanctions and all of that for going against certain rules. So it is not completely independent. So it is not independent because you still have this intervention. I mean, this regulations by the government controlling what kind of information should be shared. So how independent would the practice be? You know, that is one. Then the issue of corruption, you know, because the ethical codes of journalism are not enforceable per se. They only attract moral sanctions, and because they are not legally enforced. So sometimes controlling even the behaviors of the journalist itself is a problem, and that is why you find these issues of brown envelopes and all of that. But of course, who are the people responsible for it? Those in executive class, sometimes those in the political class and all of that, just to have a control of all of that. So these and many others are some of the challenges. So, but we can streamline it to say that these challenges are along political dimension, the inadequacies in the law, infrastructural deficit, because sometimes, okay, look at the NUJ house now, you know, it's completely in a state of sham. You know, you can't even sit there. But it's so unfortunate that, a structure like that is wasting. So how do you expect a journalist to function effectively? You know, there are no laid down structures for even adequate capacity building and all of that. So that's why I say infrastructural deficit. Then the issue of corruption, you know, which has bedeviled almost every profession today in Nigeria, because somehow, in one way or the other, the political class want to have a control of every profession, and it becomes a very huge challenge in the practice of journalism in Nigeria. But on the whole, that is not to say that the profession has not thrived, because of a profession that has thrived well over 70 years, that has stood its ground in the fight against colonialism, fight against military rule, and today we are enjoying democracy. I think in the face of all these challenges, they still deserve a huge commendations from all of us as Nigerians.
All right. Now, Barrister Agbajo mentioned, I'm with you now, Mr. Pillar. Barrister Agbajo mentioned that you, the political class, try to control the media. Is it true? Now, tell us why you try to control. Then you speak to the challenges facing journalists from your perspective.
Okay, permit me to first, just maybe by a sentence, add to what Bob Stock spoke about the progress of NUJ.
Okay.
You know that in 1955, when NUJ started in Lagos, with the first president, Chief Mobolaji, it was only one chapter in Lagos. Today, NUJ has evolved. From the major restructuring in 1977, NUJ became a major trade union. They are now an affiliate of NLC. NUJ has 37 chapters. That's, you have 36 in all the states, and then the FCT. They have several chapters. They have about 6 zonal chapters, and then you have 37 state chapters. That's 36 for states, and then 1 for Abuja.
FCT,
That's the FCT. And then they have several chapters in media houses. That's a very huge development. Today, NUJ is registered under the Nigerian Labor Law Cap 2000 Law UG. Within the 70 years, what started in Lagos has now been expanded to cover the entire country. In fact, even up to local governments. Some will have chapels in local governments. In all media houses, there are chapels of NUJ. That's a very huge commendation. It has actually taken the union down to grassroots. There are a lot of challenges, yes. I will come to that. When you talk about the politicians, the politician preventing journalism from doing their job, it is a yes and no. It is a yes because politicians, majority, some of them, let me not say major, some of them, particularly those in government that are not doing the right thing, they always want to gag the media. They always want to censor what goes out to the public. That, I must admit, is what the politician does. But away from that, if you look at section 39 sub 2 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999 as amended. Okay, let me start from subsection 1. Permit me to read briefly.
Yes.
Every person shall be entitled to freedom of expression, including freedom to hold opinions and to receive and impart ideas and information without interference. Establish and operate any medium for the dissemination of information, ideas, and opinions. They say, every person, that's including me and you, every person.
Yes.
And so you cannot hold the government completely that, you cannot say that the politician is the person hindering your job. No. I am sure that Agate Radio is established because of this section, because it's under fundamental human rights. And so it gives everybody the opportunity to operate and own. Barrister Agbajo is a publisher. He has a right under the Constitution to own a publication. I have the right. Nathaniel has the right. Babs has the right. I know he has a newspaper that he publishes. I know that for years now. He has been on
the newsstand
for several years. And so in Nigeria today, we have a lot of private stations that are, some are even going international. You have Channels Television, you have AIT, you have a lot of them. I don't want to mention names anyway. But Agate Radio, you cannot blame the politician alone or stop at that. Yes, they will share a part of the blame, but then we have a freedom. We have a constitutional right to establish our own medium, to disseminate information, ideas, to tell the people what is happening. And we will not be harassed. Even when the harassment comes, the courts are there for everybody to approach, to seek redress and get your rights back. And so I think that for the politician, it is wrong to try to gag the media. Like we earlier established, without the press, I don't think Nigeria's independence would have been possible in 1960. Without the press, I don't think that would have been possible. Without the press, I don't think certain things would have been possible in Nigeria. Even take, for instance, these people in government, sometimes the head does not know what is happening in the parastatals to which he is heading. The press, through investigative journalism, have been able to uncover several corruption cases, several frauds. And when these things go to press, you see that even the EFCC or some regulatory agencies begin to say, is this what is happening? Because you cannot be everywhere at the same time. It is the duty of the journalist to go into investigation, to be able to tell the people, this is what is happening, this is what is happening. I remember that we once had a president that sometimes when he reads certain things in the media and they confirm, he said, I am not aware. And I want to believe that he was not truly aware. But most times he will always become aware on reading in the newspaper or in the papers or in the press. And so politicians will share a part of the blame, but we as citizens have the right to establish our mediums to disseminate information, and that right is guaranteed under Fundamental Human Rights, Section 39, Sub 2 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, as amended. And so we must always do that. Let us not sit down and then complain alone and leave it at that. Let us go out and take up this opportunity and tell the people what is happening. On the challenges of the journalists,
yes,
they are enormous, from political to social. You can name them. Now, on one side, I think we have discussed that.
yes,
intimidation is also part of it. Journalists have been intimidated, they have been harassed, they have been locked up in prison. Today, what they are doing mostly, they are using the cyber crimes law, the cyber crimes some provisions of the Cyber Crime Act to intimidate journalists. Once you publish a story, they will hold you, and it's not a funny story. That most of the things people publish are true. Of course, there are many that are not true. But when you publish a story that is verified, a story that is true, they will bring the police after you. They will make sure you stay in prison. They have a way of sending people to prison so as to intimidate journalists. Sometimes they send people after you. You publish a story and the next thing your phone rings, you say, okay, so it is you that don't fear. Do this journalism, let us see. I remember one of our person here, he was seriously beaten for publishing a story. May his soul rest in peace. He has passed away. I don't want to mention his name anyway. But it happened here. I know several journalists that were beaten, harassed, were intimidated in this particular town. I remember one certain time, a particular very senior journalist, a publisher, his car was bent down completely. The driver escaped by the whiskers, but he's still carrying the scars today. And so these things have happened here. It's part of the problem the journalist is facing in Nigeria. Another one is training. Because journalism practice does not restrict itself to people who have read professional courses in journalism alone. Everybody comes in. Nowadays, the thing is becoming so messier. It's becoming an all-comers affair, which is completely wrong. Once somebody gets a techno phone, he becomes a journalist. You see him in occasions, he's already conducting interviews. Ask him what he's doing, he doesn't know. At the end of the day, he's going to collect something and go home. It's a very big issue. I think that training should be part of what NUJ should be looking at now. NUJ should be organizing. You cannot stop people from coming into journalism practice, but when they come, let them get the basic training at least. So there should be workshops. There should be workshops that will bring these people up to speed to be able to know. Now, when you see them, most of these people, when they write a story, it's minutes of a particular event that they are writing. Sometimes you have 30 paragraphs, some 40, some even as many as 50 paragraphs. I have read, sometimes you just read and then you get tired and then leave it out of the way. And so when you ask them to give you a good story,
yes,
they cannot do it. When you ask them to give you a press release, they are writing a feature. And so it's a very big challenge. It's a very major challenge today. And I don't want to talk down on anybody anyway. But you see, the practice now is that once I get appointment in government, The next day I want to appoint a media aide. That person has never written a story in his life. He has never been to any press this thing in his life. He is my media aide. He's going to be writing statements for me. The kind of things we see and read, they are terrible. They are very terrible. It's a major challenge to journalism practice. So that I don't know, it's the era of technophone. Another thing is that the equipments to carry out this job are not there. The world has moved to a digital world. I remember in those days, you used to fax stories for people who were reporters of national dailies. You sit down here, you do your story, you go to fax it to Lagos before it is published. Today, you don't need to send your own story. Within a few minutes, on the go, as the event is happening, Agate Radio is reporting on the go because of technology. How many people have these gadgets? How many people have good cameras? How many people have good recorders? How many people have good computers that can make them carry out their job effectively? It's another very big challenge to the journalists. And then economic factors. Of course, you know that generally in Nigeria today, nobody is smiling. Only few people, let me not say nobody, only few are smiling. And so you don't expect that a journalist who has maybe a wife and kids or a family to look after goes out to do the job, and then at the end of the day he's coming home empty-handed. Just put yourself in that shoe and know what the man is going to do tomorrow. He may be able to, he may not be willing to do it, but because he has to bring something home, because something has to be, bills in the house must be paid. Sometimes you see journalists indulge in certain things which they ordinarily would not do, and so these are some of the challenges facing journalism. There are several of them which, you know, in those days we have heard stories of journalists being murdered. Many of them have been murdered. You get your house razed down, your properties destroyed. A lot of things have happened, and so these are some of the areas, the major challenges which the journalist is facing on the streets, in the office, everywhere. And then another thing is that getting information. Even though we have the Freedom of Information Act, it is not always easy to get information in certain quarters. You want to publish a story, you ask for the information, you write to these people, they will not give you. And then sometimes when you get your own story, they are forcing you to review the source, which is also against the practice. If you review your source, who will give you information tomorrow? It's another area of challenge to people who are in the practice. So I think, like Barrister Gbajo said, the laws must be tailored in a manner that will allow the journalist to practice his trade freely, without harassment, without intimidation, without any iota of hindrance, without being gagged. They must be free to practice their trade anytime, anywhere, under the sun, in the rain, in the night, in the day, anywhere, anytime. Because without these people, we are all blind. We will not know what's happening in the next door.
All right. Dear listener, if you are just tuning in, you are listening to Perspectives on Agate Radio 95.5 Star FM Makudi. We are discussing the Nigeria Union of Journalists, NUJ, at 70 challenges and prospects, as well as reflecting on contributions of journalism to nation building. At 10 o'clock, you can phone in on the program to offer your voice on what we are discussing. The number through which you can reach us is 0814-335-9292. I take the number once again, 0814-335-9292. In the meantime, the SMS line is already available for you to contribute. The line is also available on WhatsApp, 0912-699-9404, 0912-699-9404. Please remember to include your full name and the location where you are sending your message from. Now, Mr. Osigbe, your co-panelist, Mr. Pillar, pointed out the issue of quackery, communiqua, as it is often said, that you journalists ask for communiqua, and there is infiltration of quackery in the profession. To what extent has the NUJ over the years looked at this issue of addressing quackery within to ensure professionalism and core training for journalists?
Yeah, Pilar actually spoke like a journalism lecturer. So I was just taking notes of the journalism very big challenge to the Nigerian Union of Journalists. But I want to tell you that the union has not been sleeping over this. Let me just give you one instance that happened in Abuja a couple of years ago. The chapter in Abuja set up a task force to check quackery in the profession. Members of the task force were journalists and the police. It was in collaboration with the police. And they went from event to event. If they got to a place and they want to know the journalists that are supposed to be there, they screen them. If they found out that you are not a journalist and you are at that event, you'll be arrested. That's what I'm saying. One is that the NUJ has tried to do its best. First of all, it embarked on registration of journalists to ensure that only the qualified journalists will be allowed to practice. But one thing that it has not been able to do is to check quackery. The NUJ has not been able to do that. I remember I've been an advocate of ensuring that only the qualified journalists should actually cover events. But it has always been a problem. Why the NUJ has not been able to fight that, sometimes choose the journalists or the so-called, let me just use so-called journalists to cover the events. But they are not journalists, but they are invited. And recently, the Benue State Council of the NUJ came out with a policy that press conferences should be held at the NUJ house. And not just only that, they want to make sure that the journalists are adequately protected when they attend those events. And they also want to ensure that only the qualified journalists will be allowed to cover those events at the NUJ house, which is a way forward. And the union itself has been sounding this for a very long time, that people should not entertain those who are not journalists. Like Pilar said, if you have a handset, you can go to anywhere. Once you put the mic on somebody's mouth, it becomes news and a journal. They don't really bother. Most of the politicians don't bother to ask whether they are actually journalists or not. And this is a big problem. And the NUJ in Benue is not resting on its oars. The Bemdo Waste Council is actually working on it. They have set up committees that will be ensuring that only journalists are actually at particular events. But the politicians will really need to help us. Like he said, when people come into office, they pick media aides who have never practiced in their life. I keep wondering exactly what they push out. What do they write? They send out press releases that are going to be rewritten by trained journalists in the organizations. That's exactly what they do. If you pick up some press releases that are coming out from some of these media aides, you marvel. And the responsibility now becomes falls on the journalists that are in this organization to begin to rewrite stories. And this is not correct. One, these people are not trained. They don't have the tenets of the prophet. They don't even have the basic knowledge of reporting in the first place. I keep telling people that as far as we are concerned, reporting is something that you keep learning on a daily basis. Even at the PhD level, you still write reports, advanced reporting. You still do it. But these people who just come into the profession, whether they are from secondary school or from wherever, they address themselves as journalists. Mr. Nathan, they are not journalists. And I believe that a time will come when we will begin to search for them and get them arrested and hand them over to the police. Because you might be talking of freedom of expression. Yes, I agree. But you belong to a profession before you can practice. I cannot just go to the court now and say I'm standing in for somebody because probably I learned a little bit of law. It's not correct. Even before you practice as a lawyer, you must go to law school. You cannot go to the court as just a lawyer that has finished from the university. Probably you are separating your certificate and you are not going to law school. You say you are a practicing lawyer. How can you be a practicing lawyer? The NUJ has some basic qualifications for you to become a member. Now it is a first degree in mass communication, which means you must possess it. Where you do not have it and you have a degree in other disciplines, then you must go and do a program in journalism. At the minimum, mass go and maybe a diploma, and just go and do it to make sure that you are qualified to practice. So for the brown envelopes, if I begin to tell certain stories and incidences that happen concerning brown envelopes,
brown envelope and communiqua. I love this term.
Let me tell you this secret. One former NUJ president came to Benue.
Yes.
When he was addressing us, he said, "Look, we know we preach against brown envelopes." He said that if they give you, I'm saying these things not to kind of propagate it among up and coming journalists. No.
Yes.
He said that if they give you, collect it, but make sure that you still go and write what you are supposed to write. Yes. Because if you don't collect it, these monies have been budgeted for from those organizations, and they will say they gave it to journalists, but meanwhile you didn't collect it. Collect and go and write what you are expected to write. That was what the former president of NJ told us. So that you collected it shouldn't stop you from writing what you're expected to write. Except that people think that, okay, if I'm giving money, I don't have the lever to now write what I'm expected to write. May I tell people, if you like, go and drop the money somewhere. It's not bribe. They will call it gratification, your transport. Sometimes they use the word public relations very wrongly. Giving people transport money at occasions is not public relations. It's very wrong for you to say it is public relations. It is not. They just decide say you are entitled to this transport because we knew that you came from a very far place. But my advice is that journalists should not, because of ability and knowledge. And the training that the NUJ has some training programs for journalists. Some of them are even within the country and outside the country. But we need to strengthen the capacity of the journalists to be able to report. NUJ has to do that. Like I said, NUJ has a committee that is in charge of training or retraining of journalists. And very soon they are going to be doing that. But I haven't said that if we must bring sanity to the union.
All right. Now, Barrister Agbajo, just before we engage with the listener shortly, speak to us. How can the government and journalists work together to strike a balance between press freedom and national security?
Yeah. Already the government has already taken taken a step in the right direction by, first of all, under the 1999 Constitution, to say, look, every citizen in this country has a freedom to express his or herself. And not just that, also has the power to establish organizations that will help in promoting freedom of expression. That is one. Secondly, the government, through the Constitution, has also said, look, it is your right, or it is the right of every citizen to report policies of government and all of that. Then, again, the National Assembly has also gone further to say, look, we have enacted and the executive assented to the Freedom of Information Act. Now, as beautiful as these legislations are there, the question still remains, how effective are they? Pilar spoke about the establishment of radio, television station, which is right. But by the time you want to establish a radio station, if you want to obtain a license for establishing a radio station, is that very, very expensive. And not many people can afford it. And these are some of the control measures that the government has put in place that is constituting a clog in the effective practice of journalism in Nigeria. When you ask somebody to make payment as much as 15 million to obtain a radio license, either a community or a license and all of that, then there are other sundry payments the person will have to go through and all of that. Okay, in terms of newspaper, it is expected that the control of newspaper publication is still under the government. And if the government really wants to take that up, there will be no newspaper operating in Nigeria. So these are some of the challenges that are constituting a clog into effective, for effective journalism practice in Nigeria. And who is responsible for this? Is the government. So take away some of these administrative bottlenecks, some of these policies, some of these regulations that are constituting a clog in the practice of journalism. You said report government policies. Then the National Assembly should amend the provisions of Section 6 and makes it becomes justiciable. That is what we are saying. Now, in terms of the practice of journalism, where people are being harassed, intimidated, should not be there. The police should see that, yes, these people are the fourth estate of the realm, and their work constitute effective policy and governance administration in Nigeria and should be treated with dignity, because it is within the constitutional provisions of every citizen in this country to enjoy the right to dignity of his or her person. Because if we look at it statistically, the report from the Reporters Without Borders as of 2020 has ranked Nigeria 115th out of 180 countries as the country with the most violence against journalists. The Human Rights Watch from 2021 up to date has labeled Nigeria as the country with the most unfriendly policies towards journalists. So these are the issues. But if we must chart a way forward, then there must be that effective collaboration, effective policy drive towards solving the problem. And by this, some of the obnoxious laws that are constituting a clog in the wheel of journalism practice should be amended.
All right.
And so as to pave way for global best practices.
Very well. Let's take a short breather. Stay with us. Perspectives will be right back. Welcome back from that short break, and thank you for staying with us. If you are just tuning in, the program is Perspectives on Agate Radio 95.5 Star FM Makudi. We are discussing Nigeria Union of Journalists, NUJ, at 70 challenges and prospects. And you can contribute on the program by phoning in on the number 0814-335-9292. The number, once again, is 0814-335-9292. Once you connect with us, we would like to know your full name and where you are calling from. Please keep your submission very brief and civil. Good morning and welcome to Perspectives.
Good morning, Nathan Nongo. Good morning, guests in the house.
Thank you for joining us.
My name is Tefa Estik, calling from KN Kano, northwest part of Nigeria this morning.
Okay, Tefa, welcome.
You see, journalism, the profession itself, if you can wake up without coming out of your house, you cannot listen or watch news, you will not be safe. And most of the time, journalism profession, they face a lot of challenges. I don't know whether there should be amendment in journalism profession, because most of the time, those workers, they go in front. Okay, let's say all those insurgencies that are happening in Nigeria now, sometimes journalists will be there at the front, and sometimes they are not safe. But if government they can make a way so that there will be safeguard of these workers, I think the thing will go extra mile. To me, sometimes journalism will go to a place to cover an event. Sometimes you see security men or people harassing them. They should not cover. They should not do this. And without them, we cannot know what is happening in the world. So to me, government should make this amendment. There should be prompt action. They should provide security for them too. Even though we are running out of security personnel, journalism is a profession that they make. I think by doing that we'll have a better nation. Thank you and God bless you.
Thank you, Tefa. We appreciate you. Government should ensure adequate protection of journalists in their line of duty. Of course, they're in the front line, like Tefa pointed out. Good morning, and thank you for joining us. Okay, we lost connection with you. Quite unfortunate. The line is still available. Hello, good morning. Hello. Good morning and welcome to Perspectives. Oh, it does appear we have some glitch with the network. Hello, good morning. Good morning and welcome to Perspectives. Hello. Oh, anyway, we are still here, 0814-335-9292. Sometimes the network will be unfriendly, but we'll try as much as we can to accommodate the calls we can. Hello, good morning, and thank you for joining us.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Nathaniel Nongo.
Thank you.
Oliver Nikia in a Bengali.
Okay, welcome.
Yes, happy 70 days of journalism.
Thanks so much.
Yes, congratulations.
Thank you.
70 years is not easy. And just like the first caller, Mr. Tefa said, for me also I calling on the government to provide and enough this insecurity for journalism so that they will discharge over an event. But because of the security challenge, you cannot have this to cover the event proper. So they should be given full time because journalism, they are the fourth estate of and the government. They always give us entertainment, information, educating in all that we need to know that is happening around the globe. So I always give kudos to you people. Always waking up as early as possible to be on radio, to be on the press, to communicate, to give us information that we need. It's not an easy job, so that you continue to do the job. Our media to begin to post. The government should also look into that area. It's not everybody that.
Thank you, Oliver, for calling in. Appreciate you. Fake news should be tackled, should be addressed. If you want to practice journalism, have proper training. Good morning and welcome to Perspectives. Hello. Good morning and thank you for joining us.
Good morning. You speak with Utswa Isaac from Goma. Anchiha Sejime. May you permit me?
Thank you. Go ahead. You are permitted.
You know, journalism is key for nations to thrive. If government can do the needful to place it a beacon of hope that would inform both the government and human about the present, the future, and feedback. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate you, Utswa. Okay, we're here for you. Let's have your voice. Let's have the journalists also calling and tell us what the front line looks like for them. Hello, good morning, and welcome to Perspectives. Hello, good morning. Okay, you're on, but we can barely hear you. 0814-335-9292. If you're not able to connect to the call line, simply send us an SMS to 0912-699-9404. The SMS line once again is 0912-699-9404. Good morning and thank you for joining us on Perspectives. Hello.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Welcome to Perspectives.
Thank you. My name is Jude Perry. I'm calling from Bakumegwe East.
Okay, good to have you join us, Jude.
I celebrate with you the placement on the journalism day.
It's not journalism day, actually. At least for now, it has not been declared yet. So let's be careful.
All right. Okay, it's okay. Now, let me start with the problems the pressmen face or journalists face across Nigeria. Harassment, I think government should look into that because most journalists are being harassed. You go to dig out information, they will say no press. And if you dare tamper with your pen or your communication gadget, you are being beaten. So government.
Hello, Jude. Hello, Jude. Are you there?
The limit they can. Now, on the side of the journalists, I think they should put in their best. Go by the ethics of the profession. They shouldn't go the other way around. You will discover that there are some journalists that cook stories, false stories. They cook false stories because just to please a personality, or maybe they have received gratification from that person in form of brown envelope to please that person. That should be stopped. You should be guided. When you investigate stories, you put the true stories so that people will read and understand that yes, what that media organization or that pressman is saying is nothing but the whole truth. I think by that, the journalists will be guided and will enjoy the profession by the masses. Thank you and good morning.
Thank you, Jude. We appreciate your adherence to ethics of the profession. Of course, journalists should abide by it. That's Jude's submission. We thank you for your position. Hello, good morning, and thank you for joining us. Hello. Good morning. Okay, the network is doing somehow today, but we're here. We'll continue to do the best we can. 0814-335-9292. The line is available. The SMS line is 0912-699-9404. If you're not able to connect to the call line, simply send us an SMS and maybe we can read your position. Hello, good morning. Oh, yet again, we lost the connection. What is part of the technology? Our reliance on technology sometimes could come with this challenge. Maybe this is also part of journalism. As a person we're trying to make calls to gather facts to investigate now, we are frustrated. 0814-335-9292. The SMS line is 0912-699-9404. Okay, while we make the most we can to get our engagement with the listener going, in terms of adherence to the ethics of the profession, Mr. Osigbe, I'm with you now. Let's look at the ethical standards of journalism and to what extent are members of the NUJ abiding by the standards governing the profession.
Okay, every person has its own ethics. We actually have, and like the barrister was saying, some of the ethical considerations you might not be able to really enforce them as they are, but morally you have to accept them. We must understand this. And let me quickly say that not all social media writers are journalists. I think the public need to understand this. The fact that somebody has posted something on Facebook does not make him or her a journalist. We have just said it before. There are qualifications for becoming a journalist, but because the Facebook is open to everyone, people keep posting their fake news and they say they are journalists. Please let the public understand this. They are not all journalists. They are just on their own. And enforcement of our ethical standards is also key in what the NUJ is present. That is why we also have here in Benue we have ethics committee that can check all those things. But the point is that people have to report to the committee. We may not begin to pick up journalists that have flouted the ethical standards, but people have to make reports. If you feel that you are not reported with facts, or were not adequately reported, or there are lies in the report, make a formal complaint to the NUJ and they will take it up. You can't sit somewhere and you complain that somebody has written a story against you and they are flawed, but if you don't make any report, how do you want us to investigate? Any report that is received by the union will be investigated, and that person will certainly be brought to book. We can stop you from practicing for a number of for some period, depending on the punishment they want to mete out to that person. So we must abide by those ethics. We have them, and they are there, and certainly people have to make reports concerning any breach of those codes that we have. I want to also quickly talk about the person. I'm happy that both Tefa, Oliver, and you spoke of security for journalists. Yes, we actually deserve adequate security for us to be able to perform our duties well. But like we keep saying, politicians need to also protect us. I remember at one of the press conferences that was organized somewhere, journalists asked questions, and before you knew it, those people sympathetic to the cause of the politician got angry and they were harassing those journalists. So even at that, how do you want us to behave?
And maybe in this country, one politician was simply asked, "Who is bankrolling you?" and he led fire on the journalist.
So those are the problems that they might not like, because journalists are not supposed to actually ask friendly questions.
Yes.
They're not supposed to ask friendly. We are asking, investigating, and probing questions concerning issues. That is why we are holding them accountable. What does it mean to hold somebody accountable? It simply means that you make sure that he does the things that are right. So when we discover that they are not doing the things that are right, and you ask those questions, they get angry, and then sometimes they might not even listen to you again. So I think we actually need adequate protection.
Okay, so maybe I should ask you, who is bankrolling you? Anyway, Mr. Fila, that's by the way. Let's look at how the journalists can effectively hold those in power accountable without compromising national interests.
There's what we call investigative journalism. What politicians do that they don't want people to know, because they know what they have done is wrong, it is the duty of the journalist to report to the public, this person you have elected, this is what he's doing. Because for every office that you have been elected into or appointed into, there is what is expected of you. There are laws governing such an office, what you should do and what you shouldn't do. And so, it is a duty of the journalist to investigate, to bring out stories. If you know that somebody has embezzled money and you have facts, it's your duty to publish. It is your duty to tell the story as it is. I remember I once served one very senior journalist in Benue. He told me, "Chief Pillar, don't ever tell lies." He told me that throughout his years as a journalist, he has never been taken to court. And in any case, anytime you want to take him to court, he's ready, because he has always stood by his own stories. He doesn't tell lies. And so when he writes, what he has said is the truth. And so we must tell the public the truth. And we must get what is right from these people. We cannot say that because you are the governor, because you are the president, or you are a senator, or you are a house of rep, or you are a chairman of a local government, nobody should talk about you. No. What the office you are holding is a public office. You are holding that office in trust for the people. They are supposed to know. They ought to know. They should know what is happening in that office. They should know what you are using the funds for. They should know whatever allocation that it gets to you. How do you use it? How are you using it? Is it for the betterment of the people? All this thing is for the journalists to investigate and tell the general public. It is our own duty. I put myself as a journalist too. It is the duty of the journalist to do this. When you begin to report such stories, everybody will become afraid to indulge into anything that is illicit, to indulge into anything that is not allowed by law. Because you know that if I do this thing that is wrong, certainly the journalist is going to publish it. Pressmen will tell the stories tomorrow. And so everybody will become very careful. And just before I go, when you talk about national security.
Yes.
Our national security is being threatened today. National security in terms of journalism is a very broad topic, but I will just narrow it to maybe very few lines. Much as I will not support the gagging of the press, I think that there should be some level of restrictions on the social media. Because we don't have editors on the social media, everything goes. You sit down on the social media today and you see people are wielding AK-47 rifles. They have assault rifles. They are threatening the government. They are doing this, they are doing that. They are threatening a particular section of the people. Someone sit and say, I can wipe the... And then these things are allowed to go. This shouldn't be. In a particular section of this country, even on social media, once you post something, they are going to lynch you. They have done that to several people. I remember a case of a particular lady who was accused of posting a particular message in a work-class WhatsApp group. That girl was lynched in campus in one of the states in the north. And so these things are wrong. Fake news that people post on the social media are capable of causing very serious riot. You might think that what you are posting is just an ordinary post. The result, you cannot envisage what will happen when you post these things. There are certain destructive and offensive contents on social media today. Even some of these guys that are into comedy, some of the comedies are not funny. They are not funny at all. Some of the messages they put up are not funny. Some of them are classifying a particular section of people. It is wrong. And I think that, like I earlier said, much as I will not want I will not want the press to be gagged, certain regulations must be in place to check these things so that one day we don't wake up and then get this place, see our country into flames. It is wrong what is happening today, particularly in the area of, particularly on the social media, because for the conventional media, the electronic and print media, there are editors. It is not every story that they will allow to go to press. But here on the social media, everything goes, and it's really posing a threat to national security. I think that is also an area. Even though we have a lot of cyber crime laws, it is still not enough. Someone might say they want to gag. There should be some level of regulation on the contents we put up on the social media. I think that should be done.
All right. Hello, good morning. Hello. Good morning. Hello, good morning. Oh, you're on, but again, your voice is not coming through. 0814-335-9292. Let's engage with a few more persons before we come back. The SMS line is available 0912-699-9404. Good morning and thank you for joining us.
Nathaniel.
Good morning.
Yes, you are talking to the senator from the Lagos University.
So sorry, your name is not coming up.
Okay.
Thank you, Igbirutenege. Go ahead.
Yes, I think journalism is a noble profession, and it's supposed to give an adequate reportage of everything that is happening. So politics have made the profession to be a bit bastardized, just like your colleague here mentioned. They will give a particular person an appointment. He will now bring his brother to now be his media aide when that person doesn't have the necessary knowledge of journalism. And again, even among the journalists themselves, I think there is supposed to be a high level of specialization. Like in my own field, if the case is that of an eye problem, generally to an ophthalmologist, if that of a bone problem to an medical journalism, so that if they are reading a particular article, it should not be boring, please. So I think high level of professionalism is also required for the journalists themselves. That is my take on that. And Mr. Tila, I beat you, my brother.
Thank you, Doc.
Thank you, Guru Tenenge. We appreciate it. It's not Pilar that is here. You didn't greet the rest of us. You are greeting. Anyway, thank you, Guru. You have clearly shown that we are not your brothers. All the same, we thank you for your position. The ones specialized aspects of journalism. And of course, there is maybe as we go along, we'll talk on that briefly. But there are specialized aspects of journalism. That is not to gloss over your contribution anyway. Hello, good morning. Hello. Good morning. Okay, you're on, but we can't hear you. Let's take some messages before we come back. The network seems to be very unfriendly today. This one said, good morning. If journalists can balance their reportage without taking side, they will go places. May God bless all journalists. Mike Teungwa from Yakio. Okay, Mike, thank you. Journalists should balance their reportage. This one says, morning I get to radio and guests in the house. My question is this journalist, if these journalists have been which tend to help the government as well, what has the government done or is doing to curtail these challenges journalists are facing? Okay, from the judiciary. I am Mbanyi Denen from BSU. Okay, Denen, thank you. Will make sense of your question. I'm a graduate from Mass Communication Department, Benue State, and lately, like formulation of social protection policies, welfare and defense, establishment of legal departments, and suitable legislative interventions to protect journalists. We help so much in tackling these problems. My questions are on challenges and opportunities. How can NUJ leverage technology and social media to promote journalism and protect the rights of journalists in Nigeria? On impact on society, how can NUJ work with other stakeholders to promote media literacy and critical thinking among Nigerians? Okay, Tefa, thank you for your message. This one says, good day, the studio. First, let me congratulate NUJ at 70. Secondly, their duties and responsibilities of enlightening and educating members of the public and private policies were recommending. Third, the government should fund journalists well so that it will minimize some of them from sycophants, receiving bribe and giving fake news. Lastly, the legislative arm of government should enact laws for transparency, accountability, and prudent use of journalist ethics and resources. Nyajo Godwin from Bajimba. Okay, Nyajo, thanks for your participation. Good morning again. My name is Yotim Isaac from Benue State University. Mine is a question. What are the efforts of the NUJ as a legal union to ensure the security of their members in Nigeria to safeguard their lives? Okay, thank you. We'll address that too. This one says, congratulations to the NUJ at 70. To the NUJ at 70, it has indeed come a long way. Journalism in Nigeria has evolved over the past 7 decades, reflecting the country's changing political, socio-economic, and technological environment. However, the challenges of funding, safety, external influence, and corruption, among others, have influenced the practice and quality delivery a bit negatively. Today, journalism is becoming less robust, on the decline, and its credibility being eroded on Occupier Extension Makudi. Okay, Gabriel, thank you for your message. We have a number of causes from the terms of the are conducive to press freedom in Nigeria.
I think I addressed this issue earlier on in the course of my answering the question, some of the challenges the media is facing. However, this one speaks to the specific of whether or not the laws are adequately protecting journalists. Yes, first of all, the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, as contained in Chapter 4 of the Constitution, gives inalienable rights to every citizen in terms of dignity, in terms of liberty, in terms of expression, and in terms of assemblage. Of course, it is the right of every journalist to belong to any lawful association of his or her choice, as well as enjoy his or her dignity. Of course, like I earlier mentioned again, that if you look at the provisions of Section 39 particularly, it gives the freedom of expression as well as establishment of media organization for purposes of expression. Again, Section 45 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria said if anybody whose right is likely to or is about to can go to court, either the state high court or the federal high court, to have those rights enforced. Of course, Nigeria is signatory to a lot of international and regional convention, one of which is the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, which has been adopted, and Charter on Human and People's Rights. That's law provides for the right of freedom of expression of everybody, and as well as the International Convention on. There are other sundry legislation like the NTA Act, that is the Nigerian Television Authority Act, the Nigerian Broadcasting Commission Act, and very recently you now have what we call the Data Protection Act of 2023, as well as, and earlier before now, we had the Freedom of Information. Now, these are some of the laws that are tailored towards protecting the journalists as well as media practice generally in Nigeria. Now, the question is, as beautiful as these laws are, do they really protect journalists, or do they really protect media ownership, as the case may be in Nigeria? Of course, you have the issue of government coming in to regulate, which is an interference. Okay, now, like I earlier mentioned, you said, yes, you can report policies of government, but again, the Constitution said it is not justiciable, and all of that. Then, of course, you have other laws that are constituting clogs in the practice of journalism in Nigeria. For instance, the defamation law, the law on defamation, for instance, and it speaks to must be able to justify what you have published or written. So it becomes a challenge, justifying what you are trying to publish, because at the end of the day, you may make effort, but at the end of the day, the institutions of government may not really be willing to cooperate, because they know that the law of defamation is there and all of that. Then the law of sedition is another thing, and official secrecy of government act or so. So these are some of the law, because for you to assess the informations of government, they say, no, these ones are official secrets of government and all of that. And for fear of, I don't want to be charged under the law of sedition, whether it's still alive or dead, but the law is still in existence, because oftentimes the government has accused journalists that certain information may constitute national threats and all of that. So, of course, these are some of the challenges. So, on the whole, we can say that, yes, the laws are there, but there are still clogs that are constituting obstacles or hindrance to the enjoyment of these laws, because the non-justiciability of the provisions of Section 22 and all of that, then you must go through before you can establish a media organization. So it becomes very, very challenging. Now, the Freedom of Information Act, up to today, nobody has really come out to say, yes, I have fully enjoyed the provisions of the Freedom of Information Act in terms of accessing information and all of that. So it's a challenge. It's like blowing hot and cold at the same time. The laws are there, but the enjoyment of the law is not 100% because of some of the clogs that are constituting obstacles in the full implementation of this law. And the executive knows, and that is why up to today, those laws have remained unamended. And now, because those provisions of the Constitution, those provisions of law have remained unamended, it becomes very difficult to say, yes, in terms of media ownership in Nigeria, is really independent. No, because if Agate Radio, for instance, now said something that government feels it's contravening some provisions of the law, the next thing, the Nigerian Broadcasting Commission will come down with their sledgehammer. It has led to closure of most radio stations and sanctions. So where there lies the independence of the press.
NBCs are regretters of mentioning them small.
Yeah.
So they don't hear
those
us.
are some of the so those are some of the issues. You see, what should be the watchdog of the society is now afraid of NBC because if they overtalk, NBC will come after them. So these are the issues. So how do you now say it's independent? Where then lies the independence of the National Assembly seeking to protect media practitioners in Nigeria and all of that? But what has happened? So we can go on and on and on and on. Yes, the laws are there in terms of giving independence to the media practice or media ownership, but they are not really independent. There are certain laws that are in place that are also constituting a way, of which the law of sedition is there. Before you know, they will say you want to bring down the government, and that is what the military sometimes use in arresting most journalists and all of that. So these are some of the issues that are constituting a clog in the wheel of media practice as it relates to law. The Constitution is there to protect the right of every citizen. So most journalists oftentimes have gone to court to enforce their fundamental right against violators. But when you look at it in terms of statistics, with the availability of the law, violence against media practitioners in Nigeria.
Okay. Good morning and thank you for holding on. Welcome to Perspectives.
Good morning, sir. This is Friday.
Thank you.
I think Nigerian has evolved over time as a result of the activities of journalists and the activities of journalism especially. I would like to start on this note that journalist is a professional who gathered information, verify those informations, and then disseminate the informations to the general public as to what is happening in the society, which also brings us to the Nigerian Union of Journalists in 1955 that we are celebrating 75 years today. It is of great
70.
privilege to Nigeria.
Yes, 70 actually.
70, sorry.
Yes.
It is of great privilege today that all over the media houses and from both mainstream medias and the non-mainstream medias will be able to get information that are verified, even though we have unverified information these days that are circulating, especially on the social media. Mine is to encourage the journalists to be aware about their professionalism, because to carry out the work of journalists is to be professional in your act of service. It's a noble profession, and every journalist should take it upon his or herself as a responsibility to building the Nigerian states and the nation, and inform us with the right information, also achieving and then giving what is required for societal development and growth. I want to say a very big thank you to all the journalists in Nigeria. This and what we have processed through as journalists or as a nation has got to do with the advent of development of journalists in this country. Please keep up the good work. Keep up all that you are doing to ensure that the people are informed about happenings around. Don't be deterred by any harassment from any so-called politicians or the public. It is part of the duties and responsibility of journalists to go through some of these things. But we encourage the government to protect.
Vision.
Thank you.
Yeah, we adopt you as a friend of the journalist because you have spoken passionately about the journalist. So we thank you very much, Friday, for calling in. Okay, now, Mr. Osikwe, let's address some of these questions we have had coming in from the audience via text message. Tesu Isaac from BSU wants to know the efforts of NUG as a legal union to ensure security of the 70 years has initiated to safeguard its members.
Well, it is a recurring decimal about when we talk of the security of journalists. I don't think NUJ has actually put out any formal platform or measure to protect journalists. But I do know that when journalists are going for some sensitive assignments, they request for security from the police or other forces, armed forces, and they go with them. That police has been very cooperative in that, and that's what they've been doing. But the point is that the security measures put in place are actually not enough to be able to handle those journalists going on assignment. You can imagine the number of journalists that go out on assignment every day. How many police security can they really go with? Let me just give you something that just happened about 3 weeks ago. We journalists went on a tour of some projects in Benue South Senatorial District. We got a security following us, but when we were coming back in the night between Adoka and one village, we almost ran into kidnappers. If we would have been the next vehicle that they would have attacked, but the Okada man saved us and asked us to quickly go back. And we had a security with us, just one police officer. We just assumed immediately, how could he have been able to protect us? At that time, it would have been very impossible for that person to protect us. Not minding the ammunition he was at boss, he would carry an AK-47, but it wouldn't have been enough when you compare the arms they have. I mean, the kidnappers have and the one the police was carrying. But when the road was cleared, we were able to pass. They had already killed 2 persons and marched the other people into the bush. So you can see another one happened a couple of years ago. We were going to Ado to go and cover an event. Before we entered Ado, we have already been warned that there are certain areas we should not go to. And we are investigating stories. Now tell me, how could we have done that? But even on our way, we took the risk, though we couldn't get to the particular place. We took the risk and we're seeing strange people of motorcycle passing us, and we just kept mute. But I'm just simply telling you that it is practically impossible for the police to provide security for every journalist that is going on assignment. It's practically impossible. Even the governors that move from one place to another, are they safe security-wise? Have they not attacked a convoys before? So how are they going to protect us? You know, so that is just the thing. Even the bill that the barrister was talking about, I think the media enhancement bill also, it actually seeks to protect journalists against series of attacks and also enhance their welfare. I think that is the area we should also concern ourselves: welfare of journalists, victims of impunity, because this culture of impunity, it has to be dismantled in the first place, so that even when you fall victims of attacks, there should be something that the union should do to, if you cannot take care of you, at least the families you are leaving behind, they should be able to take care of them. We should be looking at that area too. How do you protect the journalists that have left survivors? Because some of them go, they don't come out of it. We can begin to roll out a list of journalists that have been killed in series of attacks here and there in the coverage of assignments. I'm not sure about them. But what are we looking at now? What about their families? How many of them have actually been taken care of by the journalists or the government or the organizations they were working for?
Okay. Well, because we do not have time, let's engage with just one more person, and then we'll call it a wrap and address concerns to conclude. Hello, good morning. Hello. Oh, lost connection with you. Oh, unfortunately, that would have been our last call. And since we didn't get it through, of course, we may not engage calls anymore. But I'm still with you, Mr. Osigwe. This time, let's look at these two questions coming from was Tefa James Bay. He says he's a graduate of mass communication from Tennessee University. He has got two questions. He said, how can NUJ leverage technology and social media to protect journalism and protect the rights of journalists in Nigeria? That's one. On the second leg of the question, he also asks, how can NUJ work with other stakeholders to promote media literacy and critical thinking among Nigerians? Just tie this into one and summarize.
Well, leveraging on social media or ICT, that is the in thing in the world right now. We have platforms through which the NUJ can push out information that will help journalists in the practice and even in the security of while they are carrying out their duties. The platforms are there, and we need to collaborate with the security agencies in the first place. Because when we are going on certain sensitive assignments, they should be aware. We should let them know that some journalists will be going to a particular place, even if they are not providing the security for you to go. But the next point of call, the people there should know. And again, we have identities that we go about with so that we can get that protection. People should know that these are journalists and they are coming, and then they'll be able to actually protect them. And again, I don't want a situation where we carry vehicles that are labeled, because in terms of crisis, you carry a vehicle that is labeled, you are exposing yourself to danger. So we on our part should be very careful when we also go on specific assignments as far as security is concerned. And like we have said, government should be able to actually provide security for the journalists that are working for them, and not mind whether they are going for assignment that will favor them or not. Where you have crisis, journalists certainly will have to go there. Like I said, we don't look for stories that are friendly, that we go and be seen praising somebody or a group of persons or politicians. All we simply want to do is to investigate a particular story and get to the root of the story, and probably create awareness that people should know exactly how to move around within that particular area that is experiencing those crises.
Okay, so Mr. Pillar, I'm with you, and this will be from your concluding thoughts. From your opinion, what are some key recommendations you would like to make for NUJ, government, and other critical stakeholders to promote the welfare of journalists to contribute to nation building? In 1 minute, please.
Welfare of journalists is very important, because for everybody, every worker deserves a pay, and so for journalists, I want to appeal to government to make deliberate efforts for journalists who are working in government establishments. Let there be a pay rise, because you have journalists who work overtime. People in radio houses, some are meant to stay there up to midnight. For the newspapers, you stay awake throughout the night trying to get your publications ready and all that. So it should be deliberate. For the private sector, for everybody who has a media house, or who owns a media organization, please, I'm appealing to such people to make the welfare of their workers a priority, because these people have families, they have bills to pay, and so when you pay them very small, sometimes you are pushing them to do certain things which ordinarily they will not do. When we talk about brand envelope, most times it stems from such practice where journalists are not well paid. When we talk about quackery, it's even one of the reasons why we are having quacks, because someone who has been appointed, who is elected, don't want to hire a qualified journalist because he may be charged more. He wants that person who is not a qualified journalist, that even when you are giving him peanuts, he will take with happiness, because he has been offered something which ordinarily he shouldn't have been offered. And so I think that we should make this a priority. And NUJ should engage the government. There should be a continuous engagement with government, making appeals that, please, so and so should be this, so and so should be this. And so I think with that, it will go a long way. And lastly, I want to pay tribute to our fallen heroes. Here in the state, we have had a lot of journalists, I don't want to mention names, who have gone to sleep. They have paid their price, they served us very well. I remember when we were kids, there are wonderful people we used to read, some we used to hear on radio, on televisions. We want to pay tribute to these people, the people who have cut their ages in the practice of journalism. We want to say very big thank you to them. And for those who have gone to sleep, we pray that God to give them eternal rest.
Amen. Now, Barrister Bajo, from you, in terms of from the legal angle, legal protection, one of the callers, one of the messages here talked about prosecution that journalists face in the judiciary. I do not want us to dive into that, but what kind of legal protection the government and stakeholders need to help the journalists do their work unhindered?
Currently, the Media Welfare Enhancement Bill is in the National Assembly, and I don't want to talk about it. Making laws, or the National Assemblies, aside making laws, should, as a matter of fact, consider sitting down with the journalists in terms of making adequate or developing adequate policy framework that will really protect the journalist beyond just saying it on pages of newspapers and the media, because you cannot shave a man's head behind him. So we have come to that point where we have to be very honest with ourselves by sitting down with the journalists to say, yes, identify the issues, and those that require legal amendment, the law should be amended to accommodate current or global realities. That is very important. Then secondly, the ethical codes that are safeguarding the practice of journalism as well as their security should, as a matter of fact, be prioritized. Serious awareness be given to them, because a lot of people don't even know that some of this code exists. So I think that will also go a long way in helping to protect the journalists. Then capacity building is very, very key, because that's where the problem lies. Because most of the journalists, if you even interact with them, they don't even know the laws that are protecting them, or there are some of the laws that are regulating media practice in Nigeria. So there should be awareness to the journalists too, so that they will know that yes, this is the law, this is our right, this is our privilege, this is the extent to which we can go. Some of them are not even aware that there's a law in the state called the law of defamation, and what is the import of that law. So there should be awareness on that. So that way it will also help in deepening understanding and sustaining awareness. But on the whole, NUJ has come of age. 70 years is no joke. And just like my brother Pilar has said, we cannot but afford to pay tribute to those who have served this country, the likes of Dele Giwa, who has led their life on the path of this profession, and many others who championed the cause of the democracy and the freedom that we enjoy today.
All right. Mr. Osigwe, we do not have time. Just give us your parting words in 30 seconds. The future of journalists, what our young and aspiring journalists can do to promote well-being of the country. Briefly.
Like I said, if we don't dismantle this culture of impunity, I think the future of the union will hang in the balance. We need to ensure that the journalists have a conducive atmosphere to carry out their constitutional responsibilities. Thank you.
All right, and that will be a fine place for us to leave it on today's edition of the program. Mr. Babs Osigbe is a seasoned journalist. He is a publisher and a teacher of journalism. A barrister Joseph Bajo is a legal practitioner, a public affairs commentator. He's also a publisher, and Daniel Pillar is a public affairs commentator and a politician. This gentleman joined us here on this edition with our focus on Nigeria Union of Journalists, NUJ, at 70 challenges and prospects. I thank you very much indeed for your time and the valuable insights you have offered. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Dear listener, that's our program today. Join us Wednesday for a fresh edition of the program. My name is Nathaniel Nongo. From all of us here at Agate Radio, we rededicate ourselves to ethical journalism and will continue to serve with professionalism. Have yourself a great week ahead. Goodbye.